In the coffee shop, melodious tunes played, mingling with the soft whispers of chatting customers. Just then, a voice spoke up that "I'm sorry, Mr. Lee, I don't think we're a good match." The pink-haired girl said with an embarrassed smile to her blind date. Sitting opposite her was our male protagonist, Lee Zekin, in a neat suit. The girl smiled awkwardly as she rejected Lee Zekin. The rejection was uttered as lightly as a passing breeze. But to Lee Zekin, it was like a dagger straight to his pride, and sweat unknowingly beaded on his forehead. He tried to remain calm, asking in a steady, deep voice, "May I ask why, Miss Chun?" Inside his head, two conflicting thoughts battled fiercely. The devil Lee Zekin sneered. "It's obviously because you look like a playboy. Everyone is scared of you. Every blind date fails for that reason." But the angel Lee Zekin on the other side comforted him. "That's not it. Not everyone thinks that way." Lee Zekin was so used to being labeled a playboy that just hearing the words, "not a match," made him unconsciously think of the usual reason. But this time, it seemed things weren't that simple. Hearing his question, Miss Chun shyly raised her head and glanced behind him. Seeing Deliti waving a flag, she was startled and flustered. She quickly stood up and said, "Your conditions are very good, but I'm still young. I can't accept a man who already has a child, so I'll take my leave." After saying this, Miss Chin immediately grabbed her bag and ran off. She had misunderstood that Deliti, who was cheering in the background, was Lee Zekin's biological daughter. As for Lee Zekin, after hearing Miss Chin's explanation, he was startled and asked himself, What's going on?" He rested his chin on his hand, tapping his foot repeatedly as he wondered, "What child? When did I have a child?" He seemed to sense something behind him. Lee Zekin immediately turned his head and saw Deliti waving a flag with an enthusiastic expression, as if she were cheering for some competition. Seeing the little girl, he instantly understood what his blind date had meant. It turned out the misunderstanding was caused by Deliti. He immediately became angry under Deliti's confused gaze. Lee Zekin introduces himself. "I am Lee Zekin, single for many years, dreaming of having a small family, but because of my face that looks like a master player who juggles many women, I get rejected." Lee Zekin stood up angrily, strode over to where Deliti was cheering in the back, and said in a helpless tone, "Why did you follow me, kid?" He continued his story. "This is my 8th blind date. I originally thought I might have a chance to escape singlehood this time, but this kid in front of me stopped it." Lee Zekin frowned and whispered sternly, "Didn't I tell you to be good and stay at home? I was just going to be quick." Deliti, holding a flag that said, "Go Aze," replied excitedly and proudly, "Weren't you afraid your blind date would fail, Aze? You were so nervous before you left home. I learned this from a cartoon." Lee Zekin continued, "She is Deliti, a kid I picked up off the street." After hearing her, Lee Zekin angrily sat down in front of Deliti and furiously ruffled her hair, saying, "This is a blind date. Do you even know what that means? Running here to cheer for me?" After hearing Deliti's explanation, Lee Zekin felt his blood pressure skyrocket. He continued ruffling Deliti's hair into a bird's nest, thinking to himself, "You learn fast. You already know how to write after such a short time." Meanwhile, Deliti thought Lee Zekin was patting her head to praise her, and she thought proudly, "I'm being praised." But the little girl didn't know that this was not actually praise. Lee Zekin sighed and narrated, "As you can see, she's a witch." Suddenly, Deliti waved her hand, and the flag in it instantly vanished in the blink of an eye. This made Lee Zekin startle and freeze. Deliti paid no mind, lifted her chin, and said to Lee Zekin with a proud look, "No need to be too grateful. When are we going home? I want to ask when we can eat that thing called Take Dash." Out! Everyone in the coffee shop, seeing Deliti make both flags in her hands disappear, stared at her in utter astonishment. Lee Zekin was also startled, then narrated to the audience, "Deliti knows magic. She's a little witch." Lee Zekin rubbed his head, sighed, and said, "How many times have I told you not to use magic outside? Forget it. Let's go home." Lee Zekin continued narrating, "As for why I have a little witch by my side, we have to go back a few days. 5 days earlier, under the dim lights of the office." Lee Zekin let out a long yawn, struggling to keep his eyes open as the clock struck quitting time. A full day buried in documents and meetings had left him exhausted. The thought of finally being able to go home and rest brought a sense of relief. "I'm so tired. I can finally get off work." He grabbed his jacket, stood up, and put it on. He stretched, took the jacket draped over his chair, and put it on. At that moment, quite a few eyes followed him, some with envy, others with a degree of admiration. A female colleague sitting near Lee Zekin saw him stand up and asked curiously, "Is Zay getting off work?" He nodded. His tone was lazy but held a hint of cheerfulness. "Yeah, it's rare that I don't have to work overtime. I'm heading out first. See you next week." After saying that, he waved and left, not paying attention to the whispers of his colleagues behind him. One female colleague praised, "Lee Zekin truly is the most handsome guy in our company. It looks like he has great potential for promotion too." Another female colleague sighed, "Don't even dream about him. With a face that flirts with every woman he sees, you can't handle him." The rumored player king, Lee Zekin, was yawning as he walked, his mind already on his plans for the evening that's finally the weekend. "What did I get to in that game last time?" Just then his phone rang. Without hesitation, he answered the phone. "Hello, Lao Lu. What's up?" Inside a KTV room, loud music was blasting. Lao Lu was singing with a friend and two beautiful women. Next to him, his voice a bit excited. "Good news, good news. I found you a blind date. This is the 8th one. If it doesn't work out again, you might as well go pray at the temple of Yulao." Lee Zekin frowned. A dark line appeared on his forehead as he sighed and said, "I don't believe in places like the temple of Yulao. But thanks." Lao Lu said, "No need to be so polite, what are we? You're slogging out all alone in Sea City. Your brothers have to look out for you a bit, but you should also go out more. How are you going to find a date if you just stay at home? I won't talk anymore. We have to keep drinking." The call ended, but Lee Zekin was no longer in the mood, his brow furrowed in displeasure. As he was lost in thought, he suddenly walked past a cardboard box placed by the curb. Just as he passed it, he suddenly stopped and wondered, "Wait, what did I just walk past?" A strange feeling rose in his heart. He immediately turned back, his gaze falling on the old, tattered box. In the dim light of the street lamp, he discovered a little girl curled up and fast asleep inside the box. It was Deliti. Lee Zekin looked towards Deliti and asked in surprise, "Why is there a child here?" A cold gust of wind blew past, making the little girl shiver slightly. Her eyelashes trembled, and she slowly opened her eyes. Her big, round eyes shone brightly in the darkness, filled with both wariness and curiosity. When she saw Lee Zekin, the little girl was suddenly startled. At that moment, she had only one thought in her head. "He has a very powerful aura." She immediately stood up and said, "I've finally waited for you. Can you take me home?" Lee Zekin's jaw dropped, unable to react for a moment. "Huh?" The two looked at each other, the atmosphere becoming completely silent. Lee Zekin still couldn't believe his ears. He wondered in confusion, "What is this kid saying?" Deliti, looking at him, also wondered, "Why isn't he answering me?" Lee Zekin looked down and thought to himself, "Why are this kid's clothes so dirty? An orphan, a stray child, a runaway." He looked at Deliti's filthy dress, while Deliti looked towards Lee Zekin with sparkling eyes. So he crouched down in front of Deliti and asked, "Hey little one, are you playing a game? It's so late. Why aren't you home yet? Your parents will be worried." Deliti immediately replied, "I don't have parents." Seeing that Lee Zekin made no move, Deliti wondered to herself, "Why isn't he taking me home? He's clearly the person I saw yesterday." In Deliti's memory, she was sitting on a chair, swinging her legs and saying, "What should I do next? I still can't find a place to stay." Her stomach rumbled again, making her clutch it. Suddenly, the sound of a cat meowing caught her attention. In a small cardboard box in a corner, a cat was meowing continuously. The small cat was meowing while licking its fur. Just then, a couple walked by. The girl saw the cat and asked, "What a cute kitten. Honey, can we take it home and raise it?" Her boyfriend immediately said, "Forget it. You can't even take care of yourself." The girl pouted and said, "But I have you, don't I? Let's take it home. The kitten is so pitiful." Hearing this, the young man sighed in acceptance. "All right then." Then the two of them picked up the kitten and left. Seeing this, Deliti began to ponder. "So that's how you can get taken home?" Into flashback, Deliti was still puzzled. Did I miss a step? She recalled that in the box, the kitten had licked its own fur and immediately had an idea. I get it. The little girl pretended to stand up unsteadily and then fell down. Looking extremely pitiful, with tears welling up in her eyes, she said, "Right now, I'm hungry and tired, and I have nowhere to stay. Can you take me in?" Her eyes sparkled as she looked at Lee Zekin. Seeing this, Lee Zekin was astonished, then broke into a sweat and gritted his teeth, saying, "So you're trying to guilt trip me?" He thought to himself, "This must be a professional scam organization, to even send a child as bait. I'm not falling for your trap. Go find another target." Deliti saw Lee Zekin turn to leave and was startled and panicked. crying out, "Don't go." She hurriedly ran out of the box and carelessly tripped and fell flat on her face, and let out a cry. Lee Zekin was startled by the sound and turned around, saying, "Hey." Dai sat up, wiping her tears. She said pitifully, "I've been waiting for you here all day long. My name is Dai. I'm a witch, and a few days ago I stumbled into the wrong magic circle. I accidentally fell into this world, and as a result, I can't get back at all. I can only sleep in the underpass. I was praying to quickly find a place to stay. Then you appeared. You're the one I've been seeing these past few days." It turned out the little girl had been hiding in a small alley, following Lee Zekin for a long time, sniffing the scent on him, and said, "Although I don't understand what it is, you're the only human with the scent of magic. The scent is very pleasant, very familiar, but there were too many people, so in an instant, I lost sight of you. I decided to wait for you here, and I've waited until now. That's what happened." After hearing this, Lee Zekin said doubtfully, "Huh?" Dai continued to ask pitifully, "Now you'll agree to take me in, right?" Upon hearing this, Lee Zekin immediately raised his hand, causing Dai to jump back in alarm. Lee Zekin leaned on his hand and asked the little girl, "What magic? What nonsense are you talking about, kid?" He thought to himself, "Looks like she's a runaway. I'll just hand her over to the police." When Dai heard Lee Zekin say this, her heart felt like it was breaking. The little girl collapsed to the ground. Lee Zekin suddenly noticed that Dai knee was injured and bleeding, and said with a start, "Wait, little one, you're bleeding." Just then, Dai stomach rumbled, showing that she was hungry. Seeing this, Lee Zekin broke into a sweat and let out a sigh. The little girl clutched her stomach and said pitifully, "I'm really hungry." Seeing this pitiful sight, Lee Zekin felt his guilt index rising. He finally decided and said, "All right, I'll take you home to eat something and treat your wound. But only for tonight. I'll take you away tomorrow morning." Because of his uneasy conscience, he decided to take the little girl home. Dai said happily, "That's great. I'll definitely be on my best behavior." Lee Zekin dreamed of a dream from when he was a child. He had said excitedly, "Mom, today I told my friends at kindergarten that I want to be a magician, but they all laughed at me. But if I had magic, it would be so great. I could be like them and protect you." His mother, a gentle and kind woman, quietly listened to her son with a loving expression. She gently stroked his head, gave a warm smile, and said, "You definitely can. I believe in you." But then a cruel reality struck. His mother fell gravely ill, and the happy days with her were gradually replaced by endless hospital visits. For those 3 years, on a stark white bed, surrounded by a series of cold medical devices, the steady sound of the ventilator echoed like an endless, mournful song. The young Lee Zekin stood by the bed, tears streaming down his face. He called out to his mother with a choked voice. Seeing this, Lee Zekin's mother comforted him. "Don't cry. Mommy's just a little sleepy. Mommy will just sleep for a little while." She reached out and caressed Lee Zekin's face, his small hand tightly gripping her frail one. But Lee Zekin didn't believe it. The boy shook his head frantically, hot tears falling drop by drop onto his mother's hand. "You're lying. You're all lying to me. It's obvious that if you close your eyes, you won't wake up again." The childish words were like a knife stabbing deep into his mother's heart. A flicker of sadness crossed her eyes, but she still tried to maintain a gentle smile. "How could I lie to you? While Mommy is sleeping, Aze must also live well. In the future, you will meet a new family. Don't be alone and make Mommy worry." As soon as she finished speaking, a long beeping sound rang out. His mother's hand slowly fell, no longer warm. The young Lee Zekin called out in panic, "Mom, Mom." Knowing that his mother was gone, he hugged her hand and cried, calling out loudly, "Mom." The dream ended there. Lee Zekin jolted awake, breathing heavily, covered in sweat. That nightmare, those painful memories, he hadn't dreamed of them for a very long time. Then he held his head and sighed. "Why did I dream of it again? What magic? What protecting family? I can't do it at all." Getting out of bed, Lee Zekin walked to the window and pulled open the curtains. The sky outside was a deep blue. The sunlight shone in, but wasn't enough to dispel the sadness in his heart. "I haven't dreamed about the past for a long time. Is it because that kid mentioned magic yesterday?" He opened the door and stepped outside, muttering, "So it turns out every child once dreamed like that. It's a pity that magic doesn't exist in this world at all." But as soon as he stepped into the living room, he froze. Before his eyes was an unbelievable sight. Dai That little girl was standing in the middle of the living room holding a small wand, and all around her, every object in the house was floating, levitating in a wondrous way. As soon as Dai Lidi saw him, she said cheerfully, "Good morning, I'm helping you clean this room." Dai Lidi spoke happily, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Li Zekin was stunned. His mind felt like it was about to explode. He said to himself, "I must still be dreaming. I must still be dreaming." Just as Li Zekin turned to go back to his bedroom, a loud crash echoed. A series of objects suddenly fell to the floor, creating a mess. Li Zekin jumped in alarm, looking at the scene before him, and asked, "What was that?" Dai Lidi immediately hid the wand behind her back, smiling sheepishly, her eyes blinking innocently. "Oops, just a small slip-up." Li Zekin broke into a sweat, looking at the scene in his house. He rushed over to his game console, picked up the broken machine, and cried out in anguish, "My Switch!" After his moment of pained regret, he turned to look at Dai Lidi with a suspicious gaze. "Are you really a witch?" Dai Lidi nodded and replied, "That's right, look." Then she took out her wand again, shouted, "Abracadabra," and immediately little spirits appeared. This turned Li Zekin's worldview upside down. Li Zekin held his head, sighed wearily, his mind a tangled mess. "It's real." He sighed and wondered, "What am I going to do with this child now?" At this moment, Dai Lidi was still hugging some animals. Seeing this, Li Zekin didn't know what to do. "I was originally going to take her to the police station today, but how am I supposed to explain her origins now? Besides," he looked up around his clean and tidy apartment, then looked down at Dai Lidi's small face. She was still hugging a few small animals, her big round eyes looking at him expectantly. Seeing those sparkling eyes, Li Zekin scratched his head in frustration, thinking to himself, "I don't have the heart to kick her out." Li Zekin looked at Dai Lidi again, who was now crying, looking extremely distressed. Seeing this, he scratched his head and thought, "What a pain." He cursed inwardly, then bent down, his tone reluctant yet mixed with a hint of gentleness. "Your name is Dai Lidi, right? I can continue to let you stay until you find a way back to your world, but you are not allowed to disturb the life of mine." Hearing his answer, Dai Lidi immediately nodded happily again and again, her eyes lighting up like stars. As long as you agree to take me in, that's all that matters." That evening, Li Zekin sat on the sofa, turned on his game console, the TV screen glowing brightly. He focused on pressing the buttons, completely immersed in the game. But in just a moment, a small figure appeared, blocking the screen. He frowned, his tone a little impatient. "Dai Lidi, move over a bit, you're blocking the TV." Hearing this, Dai Lidi moved to the side, her curious eyes staring at the TV screen. After a moment, she pointed at the screen and exclaimed in amazement, "Is this thing called a TV? It's so amazing. There are tiny people hidden inside who can move." Vi Song Lin. Li Zekin glanced at the little girl and smirked. "This is just normal. Aren't you witches even more amazing?" After hearing that, Dai Lidi asked with a pout of confusion. Seeing that Dai Lidi didn't understand, Li Zekin smirked and continued to explain. "For example, you could transform into something beautiful in an instant, have a little spirit by your side, and save the world together. That's the image of a magical girl. But you look very ordinary." When Dai Lidi heard him say that, it seemed like he was saying she wasn't amazing and was very ordinary. Her eyes immediately widened, her expression one of deep offense. "Don't look down on me. I already said that was just a slip-up." With that, she angrily pulled out a small wand. A magical light immediately flashed. In an instant, Li Zekin felt his whole body become weightless and then suddenly fly into the air. The little girl said proudly, "See how amazing I am now? I know how to do much more than this." Li Zekin, floating in the air with his pile of pillows, said, Stop it now, I'm going to throw up." Dai Lidi immediately let him fall onto the sofa. She laughed and said, "Sorry, I can't help it. They always say my magic isn't very good." He said angrily, Fine, you're amazing." He caught the word they inner sentence and patted her on the shoulder and said, "It's late, little one. You should go to sleep. If you sleep late, you won't grow tall." He thought to himself, "Please, you little ancestor, just go to sleep and give me some peace and quiet for a bit." She smiled happily and said, "Yes, then I'll go to sleep right away." She thought to herself, "He's such a good person. He's worried about me." Meanwhile, he replied irritably. Yeah, that's right. From now on, you'll sleep in the guest room. Then he glanced down at Dialidi and saw that her dress was still dirty. Adults are so unreliable. He finally realized the child hadn't bathed. He said in a panic, Wait. Go take a bath first. No, wait. There are no children's clothes in the house. Can you magically make your clothes clean? After hearing this, Dialidi said, confused, magically make clothes? I don't know how. After hearing this, Li Zekin thought to himself, where's your amazing magic now? Never mind, if I say anything, I'll just get into more trouble. Even though I agreed to take her in temporarily, it seems she's more troublesome than I imagined. He looked up and called Dialidi. The little girl immediately raised her hand and said, Here, he told the little girl, tomorrow we'll go out and buy new clothes. The next morning at a clothing store, Dialidi tried on many beautiful clothes. When it was time to pay at the counter, Li Zekin looked at the amount on his phone and yelled, Why is it so expensive? He thought to himself, this costs more than a video game. Kids really are money pits. Meanwhile, Dialidi was happily thinking, I have a place to sleep, and now I have new clothes to wear. He is Dialidi's benefactor. After the payment, the smiling employee handed the bag to Li Zekin and said to come again, while he, wanting to cry, but having no tears, raised his hand to take the items. Dialidi cheerfully walked out of the store in the new clothes Li Zekin had just bought for her. Where are we going next? Let's go home. Aren't you tired? Not at all. Are you that happy? It's just a few sets of clothes. On my back. Are you okay? Let Dialidi get your things back for you right away. Dialidi was about to use magic when Li Zekin's face darkened and he froze. As she raised her magic wand, he was stunned, his jaw dropped, and he quickly stopped the little girl. Haha, just a kid playing a magic game, he explained awkwardly to the other woman. Then he whispered to Dialidi, You can't use magic outside. You can't let other people see. The robber on the motorcycle laughed smugly, looking at the two of them. The little girl pursed her lips in anger. Then she shouted, I'll go get her handbag back. Li Zekin grabbed the little girl and said, How can your two legs possibly compete with his two wheels? But the bad guy is about to get away. He looked left and right, feeling helpless. Then he sighed, took out his bicycle, placed Dialidi on the back, and said, Hold on tight. The little girl, thrilled to be on a bike, happily shouted, Let's go. But the distance to the robber grew wider and wider. He broke into a sweat, thinking, Is this kid crazy? Why are we chasing a motorcycle with a bicycle? Azay looks so tired. I have to help him. But Azay told me not to use magic outside, not to let others see. Then I'll just have to use magic secretly. With that thought, Dialidi used magic on the bike's wheels to accelerate. Li Zekin was startled. What's happening? The arrogant robber said, Humph, can't catch up, can you? When he turned his head to look, he saw Li Zekin frantically charging towards him. Bam! Just like that, they crashed into each other with a loud noise. In the end, the robber was arrested by the police. Ouch, that hurts. It hurts so much. Dialidi, when you use magic, can you be a little more gentle? What a pig-headed teammate. Just a small mistake. I think I overdid the acceleration a bit. Seeing the little girl was hurt, he fell silent. The woman whose bag was stolen came over and sincerely thanked him. It's nothing, it's okay. He patted Dialidi's head and thought to himself, although she can't control her magic, she's not entirely a troublemaker. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. He received a message, a recommendation from Old Lou. Miss Chun, a new afternoon tea shop just opened on Donghua Road. The scenery and the taste there are both not bad. Miss Chun, would you like to try it? We can meet there. Miss Chun replied, Sure, tomorrow after work. I'll be free then. All right, see you then. After texting, he turned back and said to Dialidi, Tomorrow I have to go to work, and I also have a blind date, so I'll probably be home a bit late. You can watch cartoons at home, but you're not allowed to use magic recklessly in our house. A blind date? Azay has to go out. Great, the chance to repay my benefactor has come. The next day, the little girl was the only one left in the house. Li Zekin had left early in the morning. Dialidi held her small magic wand, her sparkling eyes glinting with mischief that Azay is going on a blind date. I'll clean the house and give him a huge surprise. No sooner said than done. The little girl immediately raised her wand, pointing it straight at a potted plant in the corner of the room. A magical light flashed, and the plant instantly shot up to 3 times its size. Its lush branches and leaves leaves spreading everywhere. Dality nodded in satisfaction and continued to use magic to command sprites to help her fold and put away Lizekin's clothes, but reality was not as she imagined. The sprites only made the clothes messier. Branches got tangled in the clothes, scattering them everywhere, and laundry water splashed all over the floor. The living room quickly became a chaotic battlefield. Clothes that weren't dry yet were brought in and fell all over the place. Some even flew up and got stuck on the ceiling. Looking at the scene before her, Dality still felt extremely satisfied that it's perfect. After a while, the little girl put down her wand, plopped onto the sofa, and thought to herself, so tiring, I should watch some cartoons. The cheerful sound of cartoons filled the living room. The little girl was glued to the screen, watching from morning until late afternoon. Only when twilight fell upon the apartment did she start to feel bored, sitting at the coffee table. She rested her chin on her hand and sighed. When is Zay coming back? It's so boring being home alone. The little girl thought to herself that, clearly, before this moment, she suddenly remembered her old world. In that world, she was always neglected and could only diligently study magic books by herself. The other students had all mastered magic, while she just sat in a corner, quietly watching them perform magic brilliantly. The little girl sadly lowered her head and mumbled, I've always been alone before, so what is this feeling? Suddenly, the sound from the TV startled her. On the TV, cartoon characters were excitedly saying to each other, thank you for your help. With this dedication, we will definitely win. Dality blinked, sat up straight, and thought in amazement, people on TV cheer for others like this. She saw the colorful flags on the TV, and her eyes immediately lit up. The image from the morning reappeared in her mind. Lizekin, wearing a new suit, looked extremely cool as he stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie. Muttering, I can't fail again. Seeing this, Dality wondered if this matter was very important. The little girl was curious and didn't understand how important it was, but if Zay was so serious, then she had to help him too. She jumped up from a sofa, immediately ran to find some paper, used scissors to cut and trim, and made a small flag. Holding her creation in her hand, she ran to the coffee shop. Relying on her sense of smell, the little girl quickly found a fancy coffee shop. She stood outside and peeked in. Her eyes lit up when she saw Lizekin sitting across from a beautiful woman, and she thought happily, there it is, a Zay's scent. Dality stood outside peeking into the coffee shop. After confirming it was Lizekin and his blind date, she thought excitedly, found them. The little girl gleefully tiptoed into the shop. She found a cardboard box near their table, gently climbed on top, then peeked her head out, waving the flag to cheer for Lizekin's blind date. Miss Chun saw Dality and was so surprised she choked and coughed. Lizekin immediately offered a handkerchief, asking worriedly, Miss Chun, are you okay? Drink slowly. Miss Chun forced a smile and said, I'm fine. But when she looked up, she saw the little girl in a cardboard box, still enthusiastically waving the flag. She narrowed her eyes and gave a meaningful smile. Mr. Lee, I thought you were single and didn't have a family. Lizekin frowned and replied immediately, yes, I've been single for a long time. I've been living alone all these years. After hearing this, Miss Chun gave a faint smile and said, you really are perfect in every aspect. But in her heart, she was cursing, you already have a child and you're still trying to deceive me, you scumbag. She immediately stood up, grabbed her handbag, and told him, I'm still young. I can't accept a man who already has a child. I'll be leaving now. With that, Miss Chun quickly left, leaving Lizekin stunned on the spot. Dality, hiding behind, darted her eyes around, blinked a few times, and then asked, was it a success? Seeing Lizekin's blind date leave in a hurry, the little girl couldn't help but feel it was a bit strange. The person being cheered for was supposed to win. Why did Zay look so dazed? A sense of unease gradually grew in her heart. As for Lizekin, he remained standing there, his mind blank, cold sweat pouring down. Everything happened so fast he couldn't react. Then he glanced behind him, saw Dality, the culprit, and immediately got annoyed. Back home, Lizekin took off his tie and thought to himself, things were going well, and then she had to ruin it. He gritted his teeth and looked ahead, where that troublesome little girl was happily humming a song, her small legs swinging excitedly. Finally home, As soon as he opened the door and stepped inside, Li Zekin immediately froze. The floor was soaking wet. Clothes were scattered everywhere. The potted plant was enlarged to the point of nearly touching the ceiling, and things were in disarray. The whole living room looked like a battlefield. He stared, his whole body stiff, then slowly turned to look at Dality and shouted, "Dality!" The little girl immediately appeared and said enthusiastically, "Present." Li Zekin took a deep breath, trying to suppress his anger. He picked up one of his shirts, looked at it expressionlessly, and then spoke, "You brought this in? I just hung it out to dry. It's not dry yet." Li Zekin raised an eyebrow, a sense of unease suddenly rising. When he looked down, he immediately noticed a large puddle at his feet and wondered, "What is this water?" He opened the door again and was stunned by the sight before him. Then he slipped on the puddle of water, and his whole body fell pathetically to the ground. Li Zekin grimaced, clutching the sore spot, feeling despair wash over him. He gritted his teeth, stared at the little girl in front of him, and growled through clenched teeth, "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Then he stood up, clutching his sore spot, and wondered to himself, "When can I finally kick this troublesome kid out?" Dality followed him in and said, "Don't be angry. Let me clean it up." He walked to the coffee table, saw the pile of paper in front of him, and asked angrily, "What is this?" Dality rushed over in a panic, quickly gathering the papers in her arms. "Here, I'll clean it up right away. I've been working on this for a long time. I have to cheer for a Zay with the most beautiful flag." Just as Li Zekin was about to continue scolding her, he caught sight of the little girl's proud little face. Her eyes were clear, shining with anticipation, like a child doing something meaningful for someone else for the first time. He froze. In that instant, the scolding words that were about to leave his mouth were swallowed back down. In the end, he could only purse his lips and say slowly, "Be careful. Watch out you don't poke your hand with the scissors." He thought to himself, whatever. The action is foolish, but the intention is quite commendable. Just then, someone knocked on the door and asked, "Is anyone home?" Confused, Li Zekin went to open the door. Immediately, his friend pounced on him, scolding, "Li Zekin, you. When did you have a kid without telling me?" Dality also ran outside and saw the scene. Confused, old Lou froze when he saw Dality. Dality tugged on Li Zekin's leg and asked who he was. Inside the dining room, the food was already laid out on the table. Li Zekin and Dality sat on one side, seriously, picking at their food. Meanwhile, Lu Jingzhe, Li Zekin's childhood friend, was staring intently at Dality. Dality carelessly picked up a shrimp and cried out as its whisker pricked her. A confused Li Zekin turned to wipe Dality's face, then sighed and said, "So silly." Dality quickly said, "I've never eaten one as weird as this. Show me." Seeing this, Li Zekin sighed helplessly and seriously peeled the shrimp for Dality. Lu Jingzhe fell silent watching this scene. After they finished eating, Li Zekin started clearing the dishes to wash them inside. Dality quickly ran after him, saying, "Let Dality help." "You." Seeing this, a startled Li Zekin quickly rolled up Dality's sleeves and asked, "Can't you sit still, kid? If you catch a cold, I don't know how to take care of you." Lu Jingzhe sighed as he watched this scene. After the dishes were done, Dality quickly ran to the sofa to watch cartoons. Lu Jingzhe, on the side, took the opportunity to wave his friend over. Just as Li Zekin turned his head, the two of them went into the room. Lu Jingzhe crossed his arms and asked, "Tell me the truth. Where did you pick this kid up from? If you don't confess, our brotherhood ends here." After hearing this, Li Zekin sighed and replied, "I already told you, the little girl is homeless. She's just staying with me for a few days." Hearing this, Lu Jingzhe asked excitedly, "It's not that you made some mistake when you were younger, is it?" Li Zekin broke into a sweat and angrily scolded, "Shut up, you idiot. Don't talk nonsense." Hearing this, Lu Jingzhe put his hands in his pockets and said, I know. I was judging a gentleman by my own petty standards." Li Zekin sighed upon hearing this. Lu Jingzhe continued to offer his opinion. "Why don't you just raise her? You two are so close." Li Zekin crossed his arms and replied, "I don't want to bring a child on a blind date." Hearing this, Lu Jingzhe immediately poked at him, teasing, "Then just give up. Even without the kid, you wouldn't. Be successful anyway." Hearing this, Li Zekin got angry like a cat with its fur on end, ready to strike. Seeing this, Lu Jingzhe broke into a sweat and quickly said, "You don't even care about dating or getting married, do you? You're just trying to fulfill your mother's last wish, right? Those girls probably just weren't moved at the moment. Who could bear to reject a handsome guy like you? Just trust me, you'll find a girlfriend eventually. Li Zekin fell silent after hearing this. Lu Jingzhe continued to comfort his best friend. I just discovered you're pretty good at taking care of kids. He presented the first piece of evidence, peeling the shrimp. The second piece of evidence, rolling up her sleeves. Meanwhile, in the living room outside, Dai Lidi was pouting and thinking to herself, why are those two brothers talking for so long and still not out? I'm bored to death. She quickly jumped off the sofa, saying, let Dai Lidi bring tea and cake to the two brothers. Then she tried to carry a teapot and 2 teacups. It was very heavy, causing her to wobble. After a moment, she stopped, intending to put it down in front of the door when she heard voices from inside. Lu Jingzhe was saying, you like taking care of kids so much. Just focus on raising the child. Then Lu Jingzhe immediately burst out laughing, while an angry Li Zekin pointed at Lu Jingzhe and scolded, nonsense. Can't you be serious for more than 3 seconds? That kid is dumb as a rock, only good at causing trouble. Hearing this, Lu Jingzhe winked and thought to himself, just a few provocative words, and he spills everything. Li Zekin continued, it's only temporary. I'll think of a way to get that kid out of here as soon as possible. Outside, Dai Lidi heard this and immediately backed away. The next evening, Li Zekin came home from work. He brought food back home and said, I'm home. He placed the food on the table and told Dai Lidi, I bought the cake you like. If you don't eat it soon, I will. After a while, seeing no reply and no one around, he looked around. He immediately ran into the house, searching for any sign of Dai Lidi. He wondered to himself, that's strange. Where did she go? Li Zekin searched around the house, wondering, where could she have gone? She's not at home, not at the company. Where could she be? Did she go back to her own world? At this thought, the motion of taking off his coat suddenly froze. After sitting down on the sofa, Li Zekin took out snacks and his game console. He sighed and said, finally, some peace and quiet. No one to bother me or spend my money anymore. He massaged his neck and shoulders, stretched his legs, and said, so relaxing. But after a few whispers sounded, making him uncomfortable, he tossed the game console aside, clutched his head, and sighed, thinking to himself, what the hell is wrong with me? I can't calm down at all. Li Zekin didn't continue playing his game. He went to the dining table, opened the cake bag, and took out the cake from inside. He remembered before, when Dai Lidi had held up the advertisement flyer, pointed at the pile of cakes, and said, Azay, I want to eat this. When Li Zekin was putting things in a washing machine, he picked up Dai Lidi's clothes and put them in. Then, while changing to take a shower and brush his teeth, he saw Dai Lidi's toothbrush. Afterwards, back in the bedroom, he lay down and sighed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. The clock now showed it was past 1 a.m. His mind was split in two. The devil Li Zekin said, stop thinking about that kid. She's gone. But the angel Li Zekin said, she's just a little kid, and her magic is unstable. How could she return to the demon world by herself? Li Zekin's mind was in a mess. He turned over again, sweating. Inside him, the devil retorted, that doesn't matter. You wanted to get rid of the kid anyway. You should be happy. The angel Li Zekin bit his lip. It's still raining. What if the kid freezes to death? The devil Li Zekin replied, no, she'll be fine. She has magic. The angel Li Zekin got angry, propping himself up on his hands to argue back. You're clearly just making excuses so you don't have to get out of bed. If something really happens to the kid, you won't be able to live with your conscience. The devil Li Zekin shrank back, laughing and saying, no way. At this thought, Li Zekin was suddenly startled. He threw off the blanket, ran off the bed, grabbed a coat, and stepped outside. At the same time, outside near an underpass, Dai Lidi was gathering surrounding twigs to build a fancy thatched house. After a while, she thought happily, finally it's done. She hugged the spirits clinging to her and said, this will be my new home. You fluffballs can come in and see. The little girl crawled inside the thatched house and said, Lidi is the best. This is definitely much better than the last few times. The spirits immediately clung to her, looking extremely worried. Dai Lidi hugged a fluffball and said, Azay will probably be very happy now that I'm gone. He's a very good person. Lidi's staying only causes more trouble. The spirits clung to her even tighter, as if to comfort her. After a moment, she caught a chill and sneezed. Her whole body was shivering uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Li Zekin was holding an umbrella, running outside and wondering, where could such a little kid go? Li Zekin held an umbrella, searching for Dai Lidi everywhere in the rain. He ran into a garden, then was suddenly startled when he saw some of Dai Lidi's fluffy monsters. These are the kids' spirits. At that moment, the fluffy spirits were extremely panicked. Lee Zekin bent down and thought to himself, maybe they'll lead me to the kid. He immediately followed the direction the fluffy spirits pointed to Dialidi's thatched house. The little fluffy spirits surrounded the house and cried, "Ow!" Lee Zekin ran over and called her name. Inside the thatched house, Dialidi was startled to hear him. She poked her head out and asked Azay. Lee Zekin immediately took off his coat and draped it over the little girl's head, shielding her from the rain, and asked, "How did you get here?" Hearing this, Dialidi's eyes welled up with tears as she asked fearfully, "So has Dialidi gone far enough?" Lee Zekin was startled and asked what. Dialidi quickly said, "Azay can pretend you didn't see me. I'll go really far away when the rain stops." Hearing this, he immediately frowned and asked, "What nonsense are you talking? You're not going anywhere." Dialidi hesitated and said, "I accidentally overheard you talking to Brother Lou. It's okay." After saying that, Dialidi even managed to laugh. Hearing this, Lee Zekin froze, thinking to himself, Dialidi knows she's not welcome. He remembered when he was little, still clinging to his mother. His father stood to the side and said, "Do you know how old you are, still sleeping with your mother all the time?" He continued to remember that he was always a burden to everyone. His father pointed at him and scolded, "All you ever do is cause chaos. Just clean up after yourself. Your mother's health is getting weaker and weaker because she worries about you. You're the one who ruined her life." He cried and said, "I want my mom." He then remembered the department head and his aunt were always sad that I disappeared because no family wanted to adopt me. At his mother's funeral, those two whispered to each other, so pitiful. His mother died young, and he was abandoned by his father. I heard no one wants to adopt him. He continued to tell himself, the director was a bad person. But what does Dialidi have to do with anything? At that moment, Dialidi was still shivering. Azay is different. Azay is very good to me, but I don't want to make you miserable, so I'll go even farther away. Hearing this, Lee Zekin asked himself, what am I doing? I've been abandoned before, too. I was abandoned. He sighed and reached out to pat the little girl's head, causing her to look at Azay in confusion. Lee Zekin thought to himself, why didn't I realize this sooner? I had already agreed to let the kids stay. The difference between me and that scumbag. Lee Zekin recalled Liu Jingji once asking him about adopting this little girl. So he said to Dialidi. The little girl looked up and answered. Lee Zekin asked if she still wanted to go home with him, right? Hearing this, Dialidi was startled and asked what. He explained to her, I've never hated you. Yesterday, I was just putting on an act when I said those hurtful things. I'm sorry, kid. Hearing this, Dialidi fell silent. Lee Zekin panicked and continued. That's the reason. So hey, you have no home and there's no one to eat cake. The house isn't normal at all. Hearing this, Dialidi asked again, Azay, you really don't hate me? He replied, really? What are we still standing here for? Let's go home. Hearing this, Dialidi's eyes filled with tears. Deeply moved, she smiled and replied, Amicham. Just as she stood up, the house behind her creaked a few times and then collapsed. He hurriedly took her hand and led her back home. Dialidi asked, can I have cake again tomorrow? He replied, yes, I'll buy it for you. Dialidi continued to ask, what about the day after tomorrow and the day after that? Lee Zekin scolded, you little glutton, if you're getting greedier by the day. Lee Zekin brought Dialidi back home. He entered the passcode, led her into the house, and said, go take a hot bath, kid, or you'll catch a cold. Dialidi ran inside, saying, okay. Just then, someone approached and wondered. That kid came back. Is she the crisis that Xiaoyu predicted? 2 weeks later, Lee Zekin went downstairs to take out the trash. A girl appeared and called out to him. Hey, oh, are you the kind man for the other day? What a coincidence. Do you live here? Seeing the girl, Lee Zekin tilted his head in confusion, wondering, kind man? He recalled the last time he met this girl. Her purse had been snatched and she had fallen in the street. He and Dialidi had helped her get it back and replied, oh, so it's you. Tang Yuning smiled and said, I just moved in not long ago. I'm planning to work at the nearby elementary school. Hearing this, Lee Zekin sighed and said, being a teacher must be tough, huh? I always feel that kids are so clingy. He recalled the time when he was about to go into the toilet. Dialidi, after the incident of running away, had tried to follow him. Seeing this, Lee Zekin was startled and asked, why are you following me into the toilet? Lee Zekin then recounted, I don't know how to handle it. Tang Yuning smiled and said, if a child is too clingy, it might be because they lack a sense of security. You need to spend more time with them. Hearing this, Lee Zekin thought to himself, "Oh, is that it?" In his office, Lee Zekin typed on his keyboard, wondering, "I want to be a companion to the kid, but how exactly do I do that?" Online, there was an article for first-time fathers. You don't know how to accompany and care for your child? Follow this guide for 100% guaranteed success. 101 ways to be a good father. Lee Zekin looked at it and thought to himself, "Oh, they have this online too. Not bad." Then he diligently took notes in a notebook. The next day, Lee Zekin woke up early to cook. In her room, Dai Lidi woke up, rubbed her eyes, and came out of her room, asking, "Azay, you're up so early today." Lee Zekin replied, "I'm making breakfast for you, kid, but give me a minute." Hearing this, Dai Lidi immediately sat at the table and then rested her head. On the table, after a while, a shapeless dish was brought over. Seeing it, Dai Lidi asked, "Azay, are you concocting a poison?" After all his hard work, Lee Zekin felt his heart ache as if pierced by a needle upon hearing that. He immediately crossed out the first item in his notebook. Cook a hearty meal for your child to start the day happy and healthy. That evening, Lee Zekin took a fairy tale book and read to Dai Lidi. The prince gazed at the princess's beautiful face and couldn't help but want to kiss her. Hearing this, Dai Lidi said happily, "Oh, that's so moving." Lee Zekin continued to read. Under the prince's sweet kiss, the princess slowly opened her eyes. Reading to this point, he pursed his lips and said, "Tisk, TSK, the queen's poison apple wasn't poisonous enough." Hearing this, Dai Lidi was startled and confused. She looked fearfully at Lee Zekin, trembling. Realizing what he had just said, Lee Zekin panicked and said, "That's not it. What nonsense am I spouting?" But Dai Lidi was still frightened. Afterwards, he crossed out the second note in his book. The third item was to do crafts with your child and cherish your memories together, but Lee Zekin broke it. The fourth item was to dry the child's hair before bed so they can feel your gentleness, but he didn't know how to dry a child's hair, making Dai Lidi's hair fly all over the place. Dai Lidi thought in confusion. Azay has been acting so strangely lately. Lee Zekin continued to cross out one note after another in his notebook. After some time, he lay sprawled on the sofa and sighed. "Why is being a good father so hard? Maybe I should just give up. Perhaps I really can't do it." Dai Lidi, sitting to one side, turned her head and was startled to see Lee Zekin like a salted fish lying listlessly on the sofa. She ran over in a panic and asked, "Azay, what's wrong?" Lee Zekin sighed. "The good father plan was a miserable failure. I'm such an incompetent father." Hearing this, Dai Lidi was at a loss for words. Lee Zekin continued to mumble, "It's all my fault. I'm useless, just as pathetic as that scumbag father." Dai Lidi sat behind him, holding her head and wondering what Azay was talking about. Finally, she tugged on his shirt and said, Azay, let's go there." She pointed to the amusement park being shown on TV and said, "The villain on TV said it's the happiest place in the world. Let's go, please. Don't be sad anymore." Lee Zekin, who was dejected, was pulled up and asked, "What's this?" Then he remembered the website also said, "Go to an amusement park. I've been there before, so I should have some experience." He immediately shot up. His eyes lit up, and he said excitedly, "All right, we'll leave for there tomorrow." He thought smugly to himself, "I can't mess this up this time. This time, I have to prove I'm a good father. Make her feel secure." Note number 30. Take your child to the amusement park. Create unforgettable memories together. The next day, Lee Zekin took Dai Lidi to the amusement park. Dai Lidi was very excited when she saw the huge amusement park in front of her. Lee Zekin held out his hand and said, "Let's go. Let's make today the happiest day of your life." Then he took her to ride the bumper cars. The little girl asked, "How does this work?" He immediately replied, "Wait a minute. I'll take you for a spin around this whole area. Let's go." After saying that, he started the car. Afterwards, he took Dai Lidi to play many other games. In the park, Dai Lidi stopped in front of a shop and pointed at some bunny ears. Lee Zekin immediately bought them for Dai Lidi and placed them on her head. With her new bunny ears, Dai Lidi happily ran around Lee Zekin's legs. Seeing this, Lee Zekin smiled happily. After that, he took her to a game stall. He picked up a dart, thinking confidently to himself, "Mission accomplished. I can even complete a few more." Note number 34 in his fatherhood notebook was, "Win a prize to show off your ability and intelligence. He immediately threw the dart with all his might, but the darts kept missing, leaving him stunned and startled, seeing his plan fail. Lee Zekin was like a little black cat huddled in a corner. Seeing this, the stall owner picked up a stuffed rabbit and said, "Sir, this is our consolation prize. Thank you for playing." Dai Lidi was overjoyed to receive the stuffed rabbit, holding it and spinning around. Lee Zekin, however, trembled and thought to himself, "Don't panic, switch to another plan." His plan number 36 was, when the child is scared, be their strongest pillar of support. Therefore, Lee Zekin took Dai Lidi to the haunted house. However, the one who was trembling was him, not Dai Lidi. He tremblingly turned to Dai Lidi and said, "Don't be afraid. I'll protect you." A haunted house in a children's amusement park surely can't be that scary. Just then, a ghost appeared, scaring the soul out of Lee Zekin. The moment he saw the ghost, he immediately collapsed, startling both Dai Lidi and the ghost. Dai Lidi looked down at Lee Zekin, then looked back up at the ghost. Seeing that she was unfazed, the ghost broke into a sweat and continued trying to scare her, but she just stared at it without any reaction. After a while, Lee Zekin stumbled out of the haunted house, trembling, and wondered, how could this be? Everything was meticulously planned, but it all failed miserably. Beside him, Dai Lidi was still smiling very happily. Lee Zekin sighed and glanced down at Dai Lidi, seeing her watching a child being carried by their father. On his shoulders, holding an ice cream cone, Dai Lidi stared at the ice cream cone, her eyes sparkling. Lee Zekin understood what she wanted. He immediately said, "Since we're here, we have to get ice cream. You stay right here. I'll be right back." Hearing this, Dai Lidi immediately stood still obediently and nodded. She was still playing happily with her stuffed rabbit. In front of her was a queue of people. A bald-headed father leading his son, who was holding a toy airplane, was approaching. Seeing that Dai Lidi was alone, he immediately smirked and went over to push her. Seeing this, people asked, "What do you think you're doing? You shameless line cutter." Seeing this, Dai Lidi was furious. Just then, the other child was playing carelessly with his airplane. It hit Dai Lidi on the head. She clutched her sore, swelling forehead, let out a cry, and said angrily, "You just accidentally hit me. You should apologize." The other child replied arrogantly, "You just said it was an accident, didn't you? I didn't do it on purpose." The other father got angry and said to Dai Lidi, "You're such a meddlesome kid." Just then, Lee Zekin walked over and asked, "What did you just say? Did my daughter do something wrong? If you have something to say it to me." Lee Zekin's towering height, along with his cold expression, startled everyone. He bent down, handed the ice cream to Dai Lidi, then squatted in front of her and asked, "Little Lidi, what just happened?" Dai Lidi immediately tattled. This man suddenly cut in line, and then this boy's toy hit Dai Lidi's face. And he didn't even apologize to Dai Lidi. After hearing the story, Lee Zekin patted Dai Lidi's head, then stood up and said angrily, "Sir, first of all, shouldn't your son apologize?" The other father angrily grabbed Lee Zekin's shirt and questioned him, "Where's the injury? Hurry up and show me." Lee Zekin angrily slapped his hand away coldly, saying, "There are security cameras in here. Who cut in line and who hurt someone will be recorded very clearly. After you apologize, I expect you to get back in line." Hearing this, the man rolled up his sleeves and cursed. "You!" Lee Zekin, furious, radiated a murderous aura and asked, "Do you want to fight? Let's take it over there. Don't hurt the children. First, have your son apologize." The oppressive aura he emitted made the man back away in fear. He also hurriedly looked at the people around who were scolding him. In the end, he had no choice but to force his son to apologize and then quickly ran off. As for Lee Zekin, he was extremely proud, but inwardly he was sweating. Thank goodness he's gone. With that build, I couldn't have fought him. After that stepping stone, Lee Zekin took Dai Lidi to the Ferris wheel. Seeing Dai Lidi was quiet, Lee Zekin grew worried. "Why aren't you saying anything? Did what happened earlier affect your mood?" After getting off the Ferris wheel, Lee Zekin and Dai Lidi sat on a bench. He sighed, "I messed things up again." He remembered suggestion 30 in the book, take the child to an amusement park to create happy memories together. And he scratched his head in frustration. Why did I leave her waiting alone for so long? I'm so stupid. Suddenly, Dai Lidi leaned against him, leaving him very confused. Dai Lidi spoke up and asked, "Azay, you believe what Dai Lidi said? You even protected Dai Lidi earlier." Lee Zekin smiled and patted her head. Of course. I can't let you be bullied. Dai Lidi was deeply moved upon hearing this. She recalled how in her previous world, her friend's father had pushed her and asked, "Why did you steal someone else's things?" At that time, she had explained, "I didn't. He put that item in my bag himself." The man didn't believe her and said to the professor, "Professor Starred, I know you are very kind in sponsoring the education of children at the orphanage, but don't let a bad kid like this affect others." After hearing this, Diliti mumbled, I really didn't take it." Then she heard the other students whispering, "My mom said she's a stray with no one to raise her. Why doesn't she just admit she stole it? She has no parents to protect her. So pitiful." Diliti, moved, wondered to herself, "So this is what a father is like." She smiled happily and said to Zekin, "It's nothing." Diliti just suddenly feels very comfortable and happy. Coming to the amusement park was already a lot of fun. Most importantly, Azay protected Diliti like a father. So now I feel extremely hapdash. PY. Hearing this, Zekin was stunned. Diliti hugged his arm and praised him cheerfully. Azay was so handsome just now. You chased that mean man away with just 1 inch. Wave of your hand. Zekin said shyly. "Oh, really? Was I that amazing?" He took out the notebook in his hand, sighed, and threw it into the trash can. Then he led Diliti and asked, "Let's go, Diliti. What else do you want to play?" The little girl shouted happily, ate ice cream, and then took Zekin's phone to take pictures. After that, he carried her to watch the fireworks, and they also rode the carousel. After a long day, Zekin sighed. "So sleepy, I can't walk anymore." He was startled and asked himself, "Wait, can't walk anymore?" He turned his head to look behind him and saw Diliti still trotting along, wondering, still feeling insecure. Zekin glanced at Diliti in her pajamas. Because she liked Azay more, she had become clingier. Tilting her head and grabbing his shirt, he sighed, "Oh well, it's cute." In his kitchen, Zekin had tied his hair back neatly. He cooked and served the food, saying, "After 2 months of practicing my cooking skills, I can finally reach a level where it's edib-dash." He brought out the food, placed it on the table, and said, "Time to eat." Diliti, now with her hair in a ponytail, was looking out the window in admiration. Zekin, taking off his apron, asked, "What are you looking at?" Diliti was still staring intently outside. He also looked outside. Seeing the group of kids across the way, he wondered, could it be that she wants to play with the kids down there? That's right, she usually only interacts with me. Children prefer to socialize with peers their own age. But in reality, what Diliti was thinking at that moment was, so much snow, it looks like ice cream. Zekin saw the sad look in Diliti's eyes and panicked. Why did she suddenly get so sad? Could she be remembering being ostracized before? Meanwhile, Diliti thought to herself, maybe it's because it's cold that Azay won't let me eat ice cream anymore. The two of them, thinking completely different things, sat down at the dinner table together. While eating, Zekin asked, "Little Lidi, normally when I'm at work and not home, do you feel bored being alone?" Diliti replied, "No, there are cartoons to watch, and the little fur balls play with Dilly Dash." She ate very obediently. The little fur balls also appeared, surrounding her and clinging to Diliti, making her very happy. Diliti really liked her current life. She had a big warm house to live in and lots of delicious food to eat. It's just that she missed it a little. Hearing this, Zekin asked in confusion. And then Diliti replied, and it is a good friend of Diliti's. We met in the forest. At that time, his tail was injured. After hearing this, Zekin imagined it was a puppy and thought to himself, she met a lost little animal in the forest? Diliti continued her story. Diliti wanted to take him to get treated, but then wouldn't get close to me back then. He listened and thought to himself, sounds very cautious. Diliti recalled that moment. She reached out her hand, used healing magic on it, and said, "Maybe because it's our first time meeting, you think I'm going to harm you." Diliti continued. After that, Diliti found out that it was injured from fighting a bear for food. Hearing this, Zekin was startled and asked, "Fighting a bear for food? A small animal couldn't possibly do that." In Zekin's imagination, he saw a small animal fighting, trembling in fear before a gigantic bear. Diliti continued, "But that's because he was being bullied, and it is so nice. He's the only one willing to play with me." Zekin heard this and sighed. Oh my god, her only good friend is an anim dash. Diliti continued her story, and it doesn't have parents either. But the orphanage director wouldn't let me bring him back, so we could only meet outside often. Now that Diliti is here, and it must be very sad because he can't find me. After hearing this, Lee Zekin was flustered and didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he had an idea and said, "Don't be sad, little Leedy. After we finish eating, I'll take you out to play." Hearing this, Dai Leedy tilted her head and asked, "Huh?" He sighed and thought to himself, "I still want her to have more friends. I'll take her out to play with the kids in the park. If I'm there, she won't be bullied." That afternoon, Lee Zekin took Dai Leedy outside, saying, "Walk a little slower, be careful not to fall." As Dai Leedy walked on the snow, she was filled with joy and amazement. Suddenly, a black shadow rushed over, startling Dai Leedy, who asked, "Huh?" The black shadow rushed towards Dai Leedy, knocking her down with a thud, which startled Lee Zekin as well. A small puppy appeared, pouncing into Dai Leedy's arms. Dai Leedy asked excitedly, "And then why are you here?" Seeing this, Lee Zekin pointed at the puppy and asked in confusion, "And then, you're saying this little dog, isn't it?" "Wait, hurry and get up, little Leedy. Don't get cold." Lee Zekin reached out, intended to pick Dai Leedy up, but the puppy immediately slapped his hand away and transformed into a beast person, shielding Dai Leedy and asking, "Who are you calling a dog? You're not allowed to touch her." And immediately hugged Dai Leedy tightly, protecting her. Luo and angrily accused Lee Zekin, "You're the one who tricked her into coming to this world." Hearing this, Lee Zekin was stunned and asked, "Huh?" Luoan continued, "Don't play dumb. You smell like magic. You're not from this world. You kidnapped her and are keeping her here alone. What do you want?" "Huh?" Dai Leedy quickly explained, "And then you've misunderstood. I accidentally got caught in a space-time magic circle. It was a Zay who took me in. What about you? How did you get here?" After hearing this, Luoan also wondered, "Is that so? You haven't contacted me for a long time. I thought you were locked up by the orphanage director again. I could only sneak into the orphanage to find you, but you weren't there either. So I followed your scent and found the magic circle." Lee Zekin heard this and thought to himself, "With traits like that, and he still says he's not a dog." Dai Leedy rushed over to hug Luo and praised him. "And then, you're the best." Lakin blushed and replied, It's not bad." Then the boy took Dai Lutiai's hand and said, "Now that I've found you, let's go back together. Don't worry, I still remember the location of the magic circle." Lai Trakthon was startled and asked, "What? Go back?" Wait. He reached out to pull the two children back, when suddenly Lakin fainted, startling Dai Luti. Lai Trakthon raised his hands in alarm and said, "I haven't done anything yet." Dai Luti ran over to shake Lakin, asking, "And then what's wrong?" Lai Trakthon hurriedly came over to check on Lakin's condition and asked in shock, "Why is he so hot?" Then he took the boy back home, placed him on the bed, and worked to bring down his fever. Dai Luti stayed by Lak and sighed the whole time. Lai Trakthon walked over and said, "It's so late, you should go to sleep. I'll take care of him over here." Dai Luti rubbed her eyes and said, "Dai Luti isn't sleepy." Seeing this, Lai Trakthon said, "Still saying you're not sleepy? Children shouldn't stay up late. I'll take good care of him." Dai Luti yawned, her eyes blinking, and said, "Okay, good night, a Trake. If it wakes up, please remember to let me know." At that moment, on the bed, Lakin mumbled, "Dai Luti, I will protect you." Lai Trakthon smiled when he heard that. So brave even when he's this sick. The next morning, Dai Luti woke up and was sitting at the table eating breakfast. After she finished eating, she quickly got down from her chair and said, "Dai Luti is full. I'm going to see if it is awake yet." Then the little girl scampered off. Seeing this, Lai Trakthon sighed and thought to himself, "What is happening? I don't want that kid to wake up so quickly. When he wakes up, he'll take Dai Luti away, but I don't want her to go at all." As he thought about this, he started to feel conflicted. Just then, Dai Lutiai's voice rang out, "Anun, you're finally awake." He hurried inside to check on the situation. Lakin said to Dai Luti, "It's all because I was too weak that I fainted. I'm fine now, let's go quickly." Dai Luti. Lai Trakthon ran over and said in alarm, Wait, you're still sick. It's not very safe for you to take her away now." Dai Luti spoke up, "And then I don't want to go back there." Lakin was shocked and asked, "What? You don't want to go back?" Dai Luti replied sadly, "Dai Luti doesn't want to go back to that cold place. It's not like that here. A Trake is like a father. He has given Dai Luti a family." Hearing this, Lai Trakthon cried silently in his heart. "I won't hurt you, Dai Luti." He quickly said, "That's right. I know little Luti used to be bullied often, but that won't happen to her here anymore." Hearing this, Lakin shouted, "A father, you say? Dai Luti, have you been tricked by this guy?" Lakin angrily pointed at Lai Trakthon and scolded, "I didn't expect him to be so clever. He's tricked you into this state. Fathers are no good." Dai Luti quickly said, "A Trake isn't like that. He's not like them. In short, Dai doesn't want to go back. Hearing this, Lakin asked sadly, "Didn't you say we were best friends? You want a father like that, so you're abandoning me?" Lai Trakthan's heart ached when he heard that. Looking at Lakin, he saw a reflection of his past self. He thought to himself, "It seems." Dai quickly said, "That's not it. Actually, and then you can." At that moment, Lai Traktan spoke up. "Actually, you can stay here with us." Lakin immediately turned his head away. Lai Traktan continued, "Lakin, right? Why don't you stay here with us?" Sitting at the dining table, he thought to himself, "I was a bit hasty deciding to adopt both children. My savings are actually a bit worrying. Oh my God, I'm out of money." Thinking this, Lai Traktan sighed. Meanwhile, Lakin was wearing Dai Luti's clothes, sitting in the living room, talking with her. Dai Luti was happily pointing at the TV. Lakin waved his hand. Hearing Lai Traktan's inner thoughts, he thought to himself, "Out of money." The boy recalled his old world. A person came and asked, "It's been 2 months. When are you going to pay?" The boy's father replied, "Please, just give me a little more time." Lakin was cowering in a corner. The man spotted the boy, then immediately dragged him over and said, I'll sell the boy to you. Don't mind that he's pale and skinny. He's very useful." Lakin cried out at that time, yelling, "Father, don't." Lai Trak then was scrolling on his phone when suddenly a message arrived. Advertisement. Z Shopping Mall will hold a parent-child event on X date of X month. Register to win the competition and you will receive 8,888 yuan in cash and a gift package of children's products. We encourage you to participate enthusiastically. Lai Trak then read this message and said happily, not bad. Now Lakin will live here. After he gets better, we'll go out together to buy some things." Hearing this, Dai Luti asked excitedly, "We're going out to have fun again? That's great." But Lakin was suspicious. "He's obviously selling both of us for money. After I recover, he can sell us for more money. So let him. Let Dai see this guy's true face." Lakin grimaced, clenching his fists. The next morning, upon arriving in front of the shopping mall, Lakin was startled, his jaw dropping as he wondered, what is happening right now? The host said cheerfully, "Welcome everyone to the parent-child competition event. The prizes for this event are sponsored by..." The following 200-word brand introduction is omitted. Lakin was extremely confused by this, while Lai Traktan, on the other hand, excitedly clenched his fists. Dai Luti was also happily waving a flag. The host continued, "After a few small elimination games, the final parent-child team will win first prize and an additional 5,000 yuan. Since everyone is eagerly waiting, I declare this event officially open." Hearing this, Lakin thought to himself, "I get it. By selecting the best quality products through a process of elimination, the product will have a higher price." The host brought out slips of paper and announced, "The first level is tug of war. Contestants will be divided into 2 teams according to the color drawn. The losing team will be eliminated." At this moment, a muscular man said, "Don't worry. With my strength, I'll definitely lead our team to victory." Lai Traktan, standing nearby, heard this and said excitedly, "That's great." The two discussed with each other, "All right, do you want to cooperate? When the time comes, we'll split the money 50-50. In Lakin's eyes, the 2 men in front were villains. Lai Traktan gripped the rope, trembling and saying, "Am I going to lose that prize money in the very first round?" Lakin also grabbed the rope and thought to himself, "Just as I expected, it's all for money. In that case, I'll let him win. Then I'll show Dai Luti his true face." Lakin gripped the rope tightly. As soon as the referee gave the signal, the boy used his strength to pull the rope to one side, causing the people next to him to stumble. The match was quickly decided. After the match, Lai Traktan wiped his sweat and breathed a sigh of relief. Dai Luti was excited and joyful. The host said, "Congratulations to the winning team for advancing to the next round." The 3-legged race began. Lai Traktan and Lakin had their legs tied together and walked. The next game was blindfolded ball toss. Lai Traktan was blindfolded and threw the ball towards Lakin, while an angry Lakin caught it and continuously threw it back. The next game was Pictionary. This time, Lakin was the one drawing and Lai Traktan was the one guessing. After a while, the host excitedly announced, "Congratulations to the 3 teams. You are close to the final prize. The next level will test the parents' understanding of their children, and it's also a test of your chemistry." At this point, only 3 groups remain. The host continued, I will read the questions. The children will whisper the answers to me, and the parents will write their answers on the board. Only when the answers match can you advance to the next round. At this moment, nearby, Luke Kingiat was taking a stroll when someone approached him and said, Young Master Luke, the new illusion models for the next season have been delivered to the store. Would you like to go take a look? Luke Kingiat sighed and said, Suddenly, he noticed the event happening in the play area and saw Lytrake then, and was startled, asking, Isn't that a trach? Luke Kingiat quickly pushed through the crowd to observe the situation, wondering, what is this situation? Why is a trach up there? At that moment on stage, the competition was underway. Luke Kingiat wondered in confusion. A father-son activity? But who was that kid next to him? Wasn't there only a little girl last time? Just then, the host said, they all match. Congratulations to the father and son for successfully advancing to the next round. The winners were Lytrake and Lakin. After winning, Lytrake sighed, thinking he was amazing to be able to answer so many questions correctly. Only 2 pairs were left in the competition. The host said excitedly, Now, there are only the last 2 groups on stage, and the prize is very close. In the final game, parents will have to carry their child on their back. The team that pulls the other team's ribbon first will win. Hearing this, Lytrake immediately bent down and said to Lakin, Quick, little Lakin, wait for me to move forward, then you seize the opportunity to strike. Lakin froze, wondering, a piggyback ride? Before the boy could compose himself, Lytrake had already reached out, pulled Lakin onto his back, and asked, What are you worried about? Just hold on tight to my neck. Being carried on someone's back for the first time, Lakin immediately blushed. He remembered his previous world, where he had once said to his father, Father, I want a piggyback ride. Your father, drunk and angry, hit you and yelled, What's with the piggyback ride? You little brat, get this brat out of here. Your mother cried, pleading, Don't hit the boy. Then she pulled you into her arms. The boy stood to the side, watching another father give his child a piggyback ride, asking, Are you having fun, Natasha? The little girl replied, Daddy, I want to go higher. Returning to reality, Luo wondered, Is this what it feels like to be carried on someone's back? Just then, Lyzekin called out, Luo, and little Luo, this brought Luo back to his senses. The boy was dazed, and Lyzekin whined, Why did you suddenly zone out like that? You made me lose the prize. At that moment, the other team had won the final prize. Lyzekin was extremely dejected, carrying the gift home. The lady asked, And what happened to you just now? Why did you suddenly stop moving? Luo replied, No, it's nothing. The boy was sad, thinking, What happened to me just now? When he carried me on his back, why did I feel so warm? I can't let myself be charmed by him. If he didn't get that prize money, he definitely won't let me off the hook. Just then, Lu Jingji ran over, shouting, Lyzekin. Seeing this, Luo thought warily, Is that his accomplice? Lyzekin asked in surprise, Old Lu, why are you here? Lu Jingji immediately pulled Lyzekin aside and asked, What's going on? Lyzekin, long time no see, and you've already got a child, and you're even participating in a parent-child activity. Lyzekin replied, It's a long story. I found the boy on the street, and from now on, he will live in my house. After hearing this, Lu Jingji fell silent. Is your house a charity home? Then, he glanced towards the 2 children. He saw Luo looking at him with a wary gaze, while the lady was very excited. Lu Jingji whispered, Honestly, how can you raise 2 kids on your salary? This could be a pitfall later on. At first, I supported you adopting one, but 2 is too many. Brother, I'm just thinking of you. Why don't you send them to an orphanage? Hearing this, Luo thought to himself, Sent to an orphanage? Lyzekin immediately replied, How could I do that? When Luo heard him say that, he froze. Lyzekin frowned and said, I already promised the kids. As an adult, how could I irresponsibly abandon them? Even if I don't have money, I'll find a way to raise these 2 kids. From now on, I'll try to earn more money and work more overtime and more. Our young master Lu can also lend a hand. Lu Jingji immediately waved his hand away. Scram, go on, Shu. You don't like dating, yet you put having children first. Lyzekin replied, I already have a son and a daughter. Someone is probably jealous. Hearing this, Lu Jingji asked indignantly, Then he left. At this moment, Luo clenched his fists and asked, Why don't you sell me? You don't have money, so why do you want to raise me? Hearing this, Lyzekin said in alarm, I'm not a human trafficker. Who said I was going to sell you? He sighed, took the gift out of the bag, and said, Although there was no prize money, the top 3 still received a gift of children's supplies. This hygiene kit is quite nice. When we get home, I'll give it to you to use. Luoan, moved, asked, "Do you really want to raise us? You really won't sell or abandon us?" Hearing this, Li Zekin paused, then patted Luoan's head and said, "What are you thinking about? No matter what you've been through before, I would never do that." Delidi also ran over, pulled Luoan, and said happily, "And then you're overthinking things. Azay is really different from the people we've met before. We will definitely have a family." Hearing this, Luoan was so happy that his ears popped out. Delidi covered her mouth, laughed, and asked, "And then, are you that happy? Your ears are about to pop out." Luoan quickly covered his ears and said, "Who said I'm very happy? I'm not." On one side, the family of three was very happy, while Lu Jingji glanced at them, then turned and left. In a room, Tang Yuning was monitoring the image of the three of them. While saying, "Oh, so touching." She zoomed onto Lidi's image and thought to herself, "It seems this year is the year of the crisis mentioned in the prophecy. I really shouldn't let my guard down. Can the danger between them be completely eliminated? If not, it's best that I go and investigate." That evening, Li Zekin was still working overtime at the company. He looked clearly exhausted. Just then, the phone rang. It was old Lu calling. Lu Jingji said to Li Zekin, "Hey, Azay, do you remember my cousin who has fertility issues? I recently asked, and they're very willing to adopt the two kids." Li Zekin picked up his bag and asked, "Old Lu, why did you make a decision on your own? Didn't I tell you I'd be fine?" He said this while coughing dryly. Lu Jingji asked worriedly, "I'm just worried about you. What's wrong with you?" Li Zekin replied, "It's just a small cold. Please help me turn them down." Lu Jingji said, extremely worried, "Don't tell me you got sick from working overtime. You can't handle this burden." Li Zekin didn't wait for him to finish and immediately said, "Hello. Hello. The signal is weak. I can't hear anything." Then he hung up and walked home alone. Just then, a shadow appeared and passed by, leaving Li Zekin extremely surprised. He turned to look into the bushes and saw a glowing blue beast appear, which startled him. He held his head and wondered, "Am I really that sick? I'm even hallucinating." After that, Li Zekin returned home. He sat down and hugged a pillow. Seeing him, Delidi immediately ran out and called, "Azay, you're back. Let me tell you, we went out and earned money today." Hearing this, Li Zekin asked doubtfully, "Huh? How did you kids earn money?" Delidi explained, "Well, on the street, there was an uncle performing by breaking stones on his chest. Then went over to help him." Li Zekin was startled to hear this, and he performed breaking stones on his chest with that uncle. Delidi explained, "Azay works so hard every day, so we can also earn money to help you. It was an Anne's idea." Hearing this, Li Zekin glanced at Luo and said shyly, "No, it wasn't. I just thought it looked fun." Hearing this, Li Zekin smiled. He reached out and pulled Luo closer, leaving Luo very confused. He hugged the two children and said, "You're so cute. You've already cured my sickness." That night, Li Zekin had a high fever in his room. Delidi's fluffy spirits surrounded him. Delidi sat by the bed and said, "Azay's head is so hot. Furballs, please lower his temperature." Li Zekin woke up and tilted his head to look at the little girl. Just then, Delidi said worriedly, "And then you must be tired today too. Just let me take care of Azay by myself." Luoan walked over and said, "I don't feel at ease letting one fool take care of another fool. Come here." Li Zekin then passed out. The next morning, Li Zekin woke up. He glanced over and saw both Delidi and Luo asleep by the bed. Seeing this scene, he immediately smiled and picked up his phone. He saw it was now 7:20. Last night, Lu Jingji had messaged him repeatedly. "How dare you hang up on me? Didn't you used to complain that taking care of kids was a hassle, but now you don't think so anymore? Don't force yourself, brother. When you change your mind, just tell me. I'll make an appointment with my cousin later then." After that, he even sent a worried sticker. Li Zekin texted back, "But now I have more happy moments. Living a peaceful life and raising children is good enough now. Don't worry about me." He also sent a sticker back. Then he put the phone down. The last line he texted was, "Besides, it's not me taking care of them one-sidedly." He reached out and stroked both Delidi's and Luoan's hair. After getting out of bed, Li Zekin sat down to tie Delidi's hair. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Li Zekin hurried to open the door. It was Tang Yuning, who came over holding a bag of things, and said, "My mom sent me too many local specialties from her hometown. It would be a waste not to eat them all, so I brought some over for you." He took them and said in surprise, "This much? Thank you, Miss Tang." Tang Yuning tilted her head and asked, Mr. Li, are your two children this big? They're so cute. Luoan smelled the scent, then walked out and asked, "This smell? You must be a witch too, right?" Hearing this, Tang Yuning asked awkwardly, "What are you talking about?" She thought to herself, "Oh no, I haven't even had a chance to investigate, and I've already been found out? This dog's nose is too sharp." Li Zekin was startled and asked, "What? Miss Tang is also a witch?" Hearing this, Luoan immediately asked, "What? You didn't know? If she's a witch, where did these hometown specialties come from? Why do you have to hide your identity?" Hearing this, Tang Yuning gave a harmless smile and replied, "Do kids these days like reading detective stories? Why is it that I can't understand anything you're saying?" She thought to herself, "If I had known, I would have made up a better excuse." Just then, Delidi ran over and said, "An An's nose is never wrong. Did you also accidentally fall into this world?" Li Zekin immediately stepped forward and said, "Don't get close to little Lidi. We still don't know what her intentions are. I have nothing, so why are you approaching us so cautiously? What exactly do you want?" Hearing this, Tang Yuning smiled and asked, "How did I become the bad guy?" "Forget it, since it's already been exposed anyway. I'll just make things clear to everyone." She walked over, patted Li Zekin's head, and asked, "Little one, how dare you talk to your godmother like that?" "Huh?" Li Zekin, Dai Lidi, and Luoan were all startled and asked, "Godmother?" Then Tang Yuning was invited inside to sit down. Li Zekin, Dai Lidi, and Luoan all stared at Tang Yuning. Li Zekin walked over and asked, "How do you know my parents? What's this about a godmother?" Dai Lidi asked excitedly, "Miss, are you really Zay's godmother?" As for Luoan, he asked coldly, "Suspicious behavior. What do you want here?" Tang Yuning quickly waved her hands and said, Stop, one at a time. How can I answer so many questions?" She sighed and said, "Your mother, Lin Xie, was my best friend. She was also a witch." Hearing this, Li Zekin was stunned and asked, "What?" Tang Yuning continued her story. "Unlike me, who was reckless and mischievous since childhood, little Yu was elegant, gentle, and kind. Moreover, she was born noble, the sole heiress of the Haiichi family. In the eyes of outsiders, she was nearly perfect, but that perfection bound her like a shackle, so I helped her run away. After escaping from that family, I used time and space magic to bring her to this world. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? She just jumped from one fiery pit into another. She fell in love with that smooth-talking man and even gave birth to you. She was already weak and severely injured when she escaped. That caused a magical power to transfer from her body to the fetus, making it even more unbearable for her. I even persuaded her to return to Haiichi for a while, but she knew that the child would surely die if she went back there." After hearing this, Li Zekin asked, "So he was right. Was it really me who caused my mother's death?" Tang Yuning quickly waved her hands and said, "Hey, that's not what I meant." She thought to herself, "Damn it, I shouldn't have brought this up." Luoan, who was beside him, tapped Li Zekin on the head and asked, "How is it your fault? You had nothing to do with this." Dai Lidi also said, "That's right, Azay, don't think like that." Luo and asked coldly, "Now that we understand the godmother situation, what is your purpose for coming here today?" Tang Yuning was startled and thought to herself, "Can I avoid this?" She then said, "The people of the Haiichi family have powerful magic and are skilled in prophecy. Right after you were born, little Yu once predicted that when you turn 26, you will face a life-threatening crisis." She recalled how Li Zekin's mother, holding the baby, had said, "At 26, he will face a life-threatening crisis. I don't know if I can survive until then. Please protect this child for me." Hearing this, Li Zekin was startled and asked, "A crisis?" Tang Yuning replied, "I also don't know what the crisis refers to or when it will happen. So I moved to the area near you first and discovered you have 2 more kids from the magic continent. Although their magical power isn't high, I can't let my guard down. I originally came to ask a few questions, but I didn't expect to be exposed. No matter what, I will always keep an eye on you. Don't try to do anything behind my back." Dai Lidi hurriedly said, "I won't hurt Azay. I will protect Azay." Luoan also said, "I can also protect him a little." After hearing this, Tang Yuning said, "Little Yu didn't want you to know this, but you're grown up now, so you can handle it." After saying that, Tang Yuning even patted Li Zekin's shoulder. Seeing this, he thought to himself, "This is hard to accept." After she finished speaking, Tang Yuning stretched and said, "It's getting late. We can talk about anything else tomorrow. I'm heading home first." That night in the bedroom, Li Zekin and Luo were sleeping together. Suddenly, Li Zekin opened his eyes, tossed and turned, and said, "I can't sleep anymore. I not a normal creature? Why is my life becoming more and more fantastical? Under the faint moonlight, an elf stood silently by the apartment window. Its bright eyes, like two gems, flashed with a sharp glint as it looked inside. The elf thought excitedly. That's right, it's the young mistress's magical aura. I must go back and report to the family head. We've finally found a trace of the young mistress. Without further hesitation, the elf immediately turned and left. The night wind blew past, carrying the cold breath of the darkness, sweeping the elf's figure away as it vanished into thin air. 2 days later, Lee Zekin woke up. He groggily stepped out of his room, his messy hair reflecting the gentle sunlight streaming through the window. His deep, hoarse voice spoke, "Good morning." In the living room, a peaceful atmosphere prevailed. Luoan sat firmly on the sofa, engrossed in the book in his hand. Beside him, Dai Lidi was meticulously sketching a picture, while Tang Yuning was patiently watching over the two kids. However, when Lee Zekin's eyes fell on Tang Yuning, his body jolted slightly, surprise evident on his face. His voice was somewhat stunned. Ms. Tang, why are you here?" Luoan looked up and said, "These two get along surprisingly well, don't they?" Tang Yuning is an elementary school teacher and likes well-behaved children. Dai Lidi likes pretty older sisters, so they get along perfectly. Lee Zekin looked at the scene before him, feeling a sense of bewilderment. He quietly walked to the dining table and poured a glass of cool water. But just then, the voice of a news anchor from the morning broadcast rang out. In recent days, many citizens have spotted unidentified creatures in the sky. Hearing this, Lee Zekin tilted his head towards the news report and muttered, "Lately, there have been more and more creatures from the magic continent. I saw one last week too." When Tang Yuning heard this, her face suddenly turned pale, her voice somewhat rushed. "Hasn't time-space magic become a forbidden art? How could they have come here?" Hearing this, Lee Zekin frowned and asked back, "Forbidden art?" Tang Yuning nodded, her expression serious. "There are always people who abuse magic, and then they are imprisoned by the angels. Little you and I had to run into the forest to use it secretly. Speaking of which, you two are quite impressive, learning a forbidden magic." Dai Lidi immediately laughed innocently and recounted excitedly, "I don't know. Dai Lidi just accidentally touched a magic circle in the forest. There were lots of little yellow flowers growing around it. Dai Lidi was about to play with a little rabbit, but ended up touching it by accident." After hearing this, Tang Yuning's face grew even paler as she broke into a cold sweat. She muttered, "That sounds too familiar. Isn't it the magic circle I left behind?" The thought startled her in panic, and sweat dripped down. Could it be that the kids also came here through my magic circle? Thinking of this, she became flustered, sweating. This is bad, this is bad. If those old-fashioned people find out, it will be very troublesome. I have to go back quickly and deal with it. Tang Yuning immediately stood up and dashed off, leaving the atmosphere in Lee Zekin's house extremely silent. That evening, while Luo was helping Lee Zekin clear the dining table, a voice suddenly rang out, "Report to the family head." Lee Zekin turned his head in surprise, his eyes filled with doubt. Huh? What was that sound? Suddenly, in the middle of the living room, a magic circle glowing with brilliant light appeared. From within the magic circle, an old man with a majestic demeanor stepped out. Following him were a red-haired youth and the elf, who had taken on a humanoid beast form. The elf spoke up, "This is the place." The old man narrowed his eyes, observing the room, then growled, his face showing clear anger. As expected, the magical scent of that unfilial daughter. "Where is she?" The two sides confronted each other, the atmosphere extremely tense. Dai Liti asked in alarm, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" The red-haired youth, standing next to the old man, frowned. His voice was as cold as a sharp blade. "You weaklings should show some respect to Lord Haiichi. Where is the young mistress? Speak up now." Lee Zekin immediately stepped forward, shielding Dai Lidi. His sharp gaze stared at the old man and the intruders who had just barged into his home. In his mind, Tang Yuning's words flashed back. Moreover, she was born noble, the sole heiress of the Haiichi family. In the eyes of outsiders, she was nearly perfect. He thought to himself, Haiichi. At that moment, Dai Lidi tilted her head and asked blankly, "Haiichi, are you members of Aze's mother's family?" But Aze's mother has passed away. That sentence stunned the old man, a flicker of astonishment in his eyes as he asked, "What?" He raised his head, observing Li Zekin closely, then snorted coldly. "Looking closely, although you look like a normal person, you have the same magical scent as that girl. What a disgrace to the family. She bore a human child and died in such an obscure place." The person beside the old man asked respectfully, "My lord, what should we do? Should we bring the young mistress's heir back?" The old man struck his staff on the ground, his contemptuous voice ringing out, "Carrying half the blood of a common human, how can such an inferior bloodline be worthy of returning to the noble Haichi?" Those scornful words were like sharp blades stabbing into Li Zekin's heart. His face darkened, his eyes flashing with anger. He shouted, "Hey, let me tell you, you've had enough of your monologue. What's so great about your pathetic family? My mother didn't care, and neither do I. Stop being so self-righteous." Hearing this, the old man asked furiously, "What did you say?" The old man angrily raised his hand, and immediately a huge surge of magic shot straight towards Li Zekin. Seeing him about to attack Li Zekin, Dai Lidi panicked and rushed forward to shield him. But the force was too great, and she was thrown far away, hitting the floor hard. Seeing this, Li Zekin and Luo were startled and ran to hold her, calling out, "Dai Lidi." The old man glared, his voice full of resentment. "These inferiors are unworthy of Haichi's magic. Take back all the magic that girl left behind, then leave no one alive." His subordinate immediately replied, "Understood." His subordinate raised his hand, and magical power erupted, enveloping the entire room. Li Zekin's body trembled. A terrifying sense of oppression gripped him, his whole body shook, and his breath caught in his throat. He thought in alarm, "Is this a horrifying omen? What should I do? Am I just going to die like this?" Li Zekin's vision gradually blurred. In his daze, he heard Deliti and Luo and talking to each other. "We said we would protect Azay. Damn it. We can't deal with them." He thought to himself, what? A sense of helplessness surrounded him. But just then, Li Zekin saw the two children, Deliti and Luo, and were working together to create a protective formation in front of him to protect him. He called out in alarm, "Little Lidi, Luoan." At that moment, Lord Kaisai, "Please stop. Using forbidden magic is a violation of the rules. Attacking humans from non-magical continents will disrupt the order of time and space." A calm yet majestic voice rang out, and a brilliant light enveloped the room, dispelling some of the pressure from the dark magic. From the middle of the formation, a man in a white cloak stepped out, with shimmering angel wings behind him. Hearing this, the old man Kaisai roared angrily, "Does the angel pavilion have the right to interfere in my family's affairs?" The angel outer didn't flinch. His cold eyes looked straight at the old man and said, "Please do not try to challenge the authority of the angel pavilion." Seeing the angel outer, the head of the Kaisai family turned his head, frowned, and asked, "Authority? You want to challenge the authority of Kaisai? You're just a lackey of the angel pavilion. Is it your turn to tell me what to do?" Outer replied, "I cannot, but the law can. According to Article 56, harming citizens of other worlds is forbidden." Lord Kaisai, "I don't think you need to break the law just for one human, right?" The head of the Kaisai family frowned upon hearing this, a resident of another world. "He is the son of my daughter and a member of our family." After hearing this, Deliti said in a low voice, "You clearly just said that Azay is not a member of your family." Lord Kaisai's face darkened upon hearing this, and he cursed, "You." Outer continued, "He cannot use magic. Therefore, he is not considered a resident of the magic continent." Lord Kaisai fell silent after hearing this. The two stared at each other, and after a while, Kaisai clicked his tongue, waved his hand, and said, "Let's go." With that, he and his subordinates all disappeared. Seeing this, Li Zekin breathed a sigh of relief. He jumped up and hurried over to Outer, shaking his hand and saying, "Thank you so much. Otherwise, we really wouldn't have known what to do." Outer replied, "No need to thank me. This is what I should do." As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere immediately became silent. Hearing this, Li Zekin tilted his head in confusion and wondered, why hasn't he left yet? Outer then said, "I came here this time to restore the abnormalities in this world, which of course includes the two children beside you." Li Zekin broke into a sweat after hearing this and asked, "What do you mean?" Outer replied, "They do not belong to this world, so naturally they should not stay here. I'm sorry for the harm caused to you. From now on, no one from the magic continent will bother you again. Outer stretched out his hand, and a huge magic formation immediately appeared, binding Luo and Deliti tightly. Luo shouted, "Let me go." Deliti also said, "Let me go. You're a bad angel." Hearing this, Li Zekin panicked and ran to hug the two children. But the shockwave of magical power forced him to retreat. He then asked, "I say, why do all of you like to decide things on your own?" Outer replied, "Sorry to have bothered you. Farewell." Deliti cried out in anguish, "Azay." Li Zekin reached out to grab her, thinking they would be separated. But the truth was that nothing happened, leaving the two of them confused. Outer also frowned and asked strangely, "Why isn't the magic circle working?" At this moment, someone spoke up, "Because they no longer have magic now." Hearing this, Outer was startled and thought to himself, "This voice is..." It turned out to be Tang Yuning who had arrived. She said, "So they're not affected by the magic circle." As soon as Deliti saw Tang Yuning, she cried out happily, "Sister Ningning." Tang Yuning was currently wearing a witch's uniform, riding a broom, and wiping her sweat. She said, Sorry, I'm a little late." Outer, hearing this, asked Ning in confusion. Luo, and recalling the scene of him and Deliti protecting Li Zekin, then said, "Just now, the evil old man's people didn't take Azay's magic, but the ones affected were Deliti and me." Tang Yuning looked at Outer and said, "Those who cannot use magic are not considered residents of the magic continent. Outer, you know this better than I do." After she said this, Outer looked at her in surprise. The atmosphere was extremely silent. After a while, Outer said in a low voice, "That's right, although it's only a temporary loss. However, after I close the remaining time-space magic circle in this world, the two of you will never be able to return to the magic continent." Deliti immediately replied, "That's fine, because this is Deliti's home." Li Zekin was astonished to hear this. At this time, Luo, who was beside them, also crossed his arms and said, "I don't want to go back either." Hearing this, Li Zekin was overjoyed and went to pat Luo's head. Outer nodded after hearing this and said, "I understand. I will report the situation. You two can stay here at ease." Then he looked at Tang Yuning with a face that seemed to say, "Hurry up and praise me," which confused Tang Yuning. At this moment, Li Zekin came over and asked, "Ms. Tang, do you two know each other?" Outer immediately replied, "Yuning is my fiancé," which startled Tang Yuning. She blushed and retorted, "Who will be the fiancé of someone as boring and work-obsessed as you? Anyway, I ran away before we could get engaged." Outer pursed his lips and said nothing. As for Li Zekin, he was shocked and surprised. So much information. Outer looked at Tang Yuning and said, "So you came to another world. No wonder I couldn't find you anywhere. Wait for me to finish my work here, then you'll come back with me." Yuning. Tang Yuning cried out, "I don't want to. Besides, I promised Xiaoyu that I would help her take care of her son." Hearing this, Li Zekin said, Speaking of that crisis, Ms. Tang doesn't have to worry anymore. The two kids have already helped me solve it." He patted the heads of Deliti and Luo, and who were standing in front of him, smiling happily. When Tang Yuning heard this, she pouted and thought to herself, "This kid didn't even put in a good word for me." Then she turned and winked at Outer, saying, "Well then, you get back to work, workaholic. I'm leaving first." With that, Tang Yuning ran off. Seeing this, Outer shouted, "Yuning," and chased after her, leaving only a gust of wind in the house, which left Li Zekin, Luo, and Deliti all very confused. The house was now clean, and there was no one else. After everything was settled, Li Zekin breathed a sigh of relief and said, "What on earth happened today?" "I don't know." Deliti laughed. "Deliti can be with Azay and in forever if there's no more magic. How can we help Azay clean the house in the future?" Li Zekin said, "That's great. No one will use magic to cause trouble for me anymore." Hearing this, Deliti got angry. "I didn't cause any trouble." Luo, seeing the two of them bickering, thought to himself, "Two childish people." A few months later, Li Zekin narrated, "Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Li Zekin, a single father raising two children, although I went through a period of instability. But now things are back on track. With old Lu's help, little Lidi's and Luo's identities have also been established, and now the two kids can go to school." He sat in his office, happily looking at a photo of Deliti and Luo. And then he stretched and sighed. Living a simple life like this is still the best. He took off his glasses, At this moment, the phone rang. It was Principal Wong calling. He answered the phone and asked in a low voice, "Hello, what's the matter, Ms. Wong?" Ms. Wong said, "Mr. Lee, today while we were playing volleyball in gym class, student Luo and suddenly became so strong that he made a big hole in the wall." Lee Zekin was startled and asked, "Huh?" Ms. Wong continued, "Can you come to the school early to discuss compensation?" "All right, there's more. Before school I told the parents, why did Deliti bring toys to school? But toys these days are really high-tech. Those white fur balls can even move." Lee Zekin fell silent after hearing this, thinking to himself, didn't the magic disappear? Is it back? Thinking of this, he broke into a sweat. After work, he immediately rushed to the school, pushed open the door and said, "Hello, Ms. Wong. I am Deliti and Luo and's father." He turned his head and saw someone sitting next to Ms. Wong. It was Tang Yuning, and he asked in surprise, "Ms. Tang, why are you here?" Tang Yuning replied, "It's normal for me to be an elementary school teacher here. I ran to a few other worlds, but still came back here in the end." At this moment, Luo and Deliti also ran too. Lee Zekin, Deliti said in a low voice, Azay, it seems like mine and Anne's magic is about to be restored." And at this time, Outerer had also followed Tang Yuning here and was standing in the hallway outside. Seeing this scene, Lee Zekin held his head and sighed. "Oh no, it seems my turbulent life is about to start all over again." The story ends here. This episode has come to an end. If you enjoyed it, please give a like and a share to motivate me to make more videos. Remember to follow to watch the next episodes. I wish you all a day full of energy.